Hello, everyone. Welcome to this very special edition hosted by Sira. I am Rashmi Chanduraj. I am so glad that you're here and decided to spend the evening with us. Whether you're tuning in from home after a long day or carving out some time, just with yourself. Today, we're honored that you're here. Sorry, we just have a little bit of background noise here. I think we're good. Yeah, awesome. Well, anyways, today we're actually going to be, diving into a power of personal branding. And this obviously is this really special, topic because it's about understanding your own presence. It's, learning how you can show up in the world, with clarity, confidence, and with intention. As we get older, I feel like we need to really own, this, and, intention is really, really key. This is especially important, for us, I feel, as women, where it's been like, I feel like we're all conditioned, to not take on too much, or, or we take on too much, or we have to wait our turn, and, having to be sort of modest about, sort of our brilliance. Anyway, that has to change. And I want you to take a deep breath. You're in the right place. And now I'm going to hand it off to my co-host, Deepa, and co-founder of Sira. Deepa, take it away.
Might have an audio
Deepa,
problem with Deepa.
You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Rashmi. And, when we started Sira, we dreamt of bringing in mentors that would not just enhance your skill or, you evolve as a person, but also to transform the way you look at yourself. And we're so glad that that vision is coming true with these two phenomenal guests that we have today, Rohit and Gauri. Welcome. And Rohit is a CEO of a Toronto-based company called Savonia, and they do branding and communications. And for the over 18 years, he's been in the field of public speaking, communications, and personal branding. And Rohit has mentored a number of individuals and global brands enhance their personal brand and also their impact, right? And he's mentored many women, young adults, to sort of enhance their brand, align their mindset to the goals, and also to sort of create an impact. Welcome, Rohit. And joining him, we have Gauri, who's a trailblazer in the beauty industry. Yeah, she's worked with many icons like Deepika Padukone, Anushka Sharma, Katrina Kaif, and also many legacy families and global brands. Gauri, hi. And Gauri is not just worked in the beauty industry, but also has empowered many women in becoming more confident and also to own their power. I'm so happy both of you are here today, and let's take it on. Rashmi.
My God. Yeah, again, thank you guys. I'm excited for this. Rohit, I want to start with, especially when it comes to personal branding, let's sort of take a step back and look at, what the big picture, right? What does personal branding really, really mean? Why is it, such a crucial part of, our conversation today, whether it's women or, as entrepreneurs, as professionals, as homemakers, walk us through what that is.
So, in the most simplest of the terms, a personal brand reflects on what people are thinking about you when you are not in the room. That's your personal brand. So if I have to, turn around and say, give me one word response to the next few things that I say. So let's say Ferrari, and you'll say speed. You'll say Mercedes, you'll say luxury. Louis Vuitton, again, luxury. So when somebody says Rashmi Chanduraj, well, what's the first thought that comes into your mind? So that's a personal brand. Now, most people, whether they recognize it or not, whether they know it or not, whether they like it or not, we all have personal brands. We all have a brand that we carry along well with us. Now, is that brand working in our favor or not? That's a whole different matter. And the brand follows us in different roles that we play. As a colleague, as a mother, as a friend, as a community advisor, we all have different roles to play in these areas. And essentially, we do need a slight modification, a slight a curation of our brand in all these different roles. The role of a mother at home, the kind of a brand value that you want to create, will not support you too well in the workforce, and vice versa. So it doesn't mean really that that you have no brand. You're always having a brand. Now, whether you're closely aligning yourself with your brand, that's a whole different topic of conversation.
No, 100%. I think that's so well said, right? It's, what do people remember when you're not in the room, and what do they associate with? I think that's super powerful. Just to, I want that to
Yeah.
sit and digest a little bit, because I think we all have to think about it, and figure out what that really means. Anyways,
And it's
Gauri,
a
this,
combination of two things.
yeah, go ahead.
It's a combination of two things. Who are you internally and who are you externally? And are those two things in sync?
That's so true. Actually, I love that you talked about it, because, as a follow up, I think Gauri will probably have a lot more insight on this, because obviously, like she's probably supported and helped, women all walks of life, like, Deepa just talked about, in terms of their special moments in their lives and so on. But I wanted to hear your perspective, Gauri. Do you see women sort of underestimate the power of their personal brand?
I think it's very important to have a connection with yourself, and only then can you identify what kind of a brand you are. So I think that's where we really lack. But because I think, I mean, as Rohit said, you could be a brand in anything. It's like when you're underconfident or when you're coming across. Um, who really are you? What do you really want people to know you as? Yes, I'm a makeup artist, and that's exactly why Rohit and me have collaborated, because it's an extension of who you are, right? It's on a broader picture. It's more like what I feel within and what I show outside is that aligned. So I do feel a lot of women have a problem with that, because I think somewhere down the line we've lost that connection, and the ones who are connected, I think, are the ones who really know what they want and go out there to get it.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. Just to have that sort of inner confidence to be able to, have
Inner
like
connect,
to
Rashmi, inner connect, the inner
connect.
connect gives
I
you
like
the
that.
inner confidence, and that's what really shows on the outside.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
And
love.
that's a build-up. I mean, whatever me and Rohit are doing are a build-up of everything. It all starts from there.
Yeah, that's great. So, as a follow-up, Rohit, do you believe that, you know, personal branding is more of like a strategy, and like, I understand that, you have to be able to own sort of that inner clarity first and the inner connection, like Gauri was talking about. But do you believe that, one, it's sort of a strategy that, you can kind of create, and that can evolve, because obviously you probably will own many different versions of it, and it probably is a lifelong process. But I wanted to get your perspective on, what that is. Does it evolve? If so, how do you let it, do you let it organically evolve, or do you be a little bit more sort of strategic about it?
So, like you said, it's the process. I would definitely say that you're on the right track, when you say that it's a process. And the process involves a careful look at yourself, which is what Gauri said. It starts off with that. Number two, yes, there is very much a strategy. And I don't think organic is the way to go on this one.
Mm.
You have to be conscious about what you're doing. You have to be conscious about what you want. And all that starts off with, again, like I said, the inner connect. Once you know what you want, once you know who you are, and then you define what kind of a brand do you want for yourself. So, for instance, if what does in case Deepa is looking for her brand in the workplace, right? First of all, she would like to be seen in a certain light. But Rarely is that ever the case. There's always a disconnect between the way you want to be seen and the way people actually perceive you. Now, the distance between those two is the homework that you have to do. And for that, you do need a strategy in place. So it definitely needs to be a well thought out process, and it has to be deliberate. It can't just be, going off the rails every single day.
Yeah.
Because, but that's how it is.
That makes sense. What are usually the common misconceptions, you think that women carry? I'd love to hear both your perspectives actually, just around visibility and confidence and sort of,
Or do you
self.
want to start?
I think the biggest problem is when you're trying to fit in. When you're trying to fit in, you are trying to be someone else. And I think what Rohit and me really get to the core of it is like, who are you? What is your personality? What is your identity? What are your strengths? What are your attributes? What are your skills? Only then, of course, certain people have already come with that, but certain people are still looking at, like, we cater to even the youth, which is still getting out. Like we have seminars like for colleges and stuff like that. They still have to make a brand, right? Now there are so many. Let's take makeup artistry. There's so many makeup artists. What really makes you different? What is your brand? How is it different from what Gauri is? How is anybody else more different from the other person, right? So I think that's what is where I feel there's societal pressure or societal influence, which kind of confuses people.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
So,
That's what I feel.
Picking up from where Gauri left off, the way I like to talk about branding is it's a very simple concept called ADC. And A stands for authenticity, D for differentiation, and C is for consistency. So authenticity is, like Gauri said, are you really being yourself? Because all said and done, who is the best person that you can ever be? You can't be Shah Rukh Khan and you can't be Madhuri Dixit. The best person you can be is Rashmi Chanduraj. So authenticity is the main thing. And people who know you even remotely well, if you are being inauthentic, it'll show through in a heartbeat. And the moment that happens, you're losing respect, you're losing your brand value. That is one. So regardless of where you stand at the moment, if you are yourself, that's a plus. Differentiation is, well, how do you differentiate yourself from everybody else? And this is again what Gauri said. If you're a makeup artist, how are you any different from any of the other ones that are coming down the line? Now, a lot of thousands of women graduated from makeup classes every year. Not everyone goes on to become Gouri Kapur. Clearly, she took a different path than all those other thousands. So differentiation is another one very big area which sets you apart. And the third is, if you cannot continue your branding effort consistently, then you're not delivering a singular message that people can take to heart and rely on you for. Because today, if you're one person, the next day you're a different person, it's kind of hard to rely on that person and say, you know what, this is that person's brand. But the more confidence you have, the more effort you put into curating your own brand, and the more consistent you are with that. And like I said, it's a process. It's never going to end. You will never reach a day, when you say that my brand is now complete. It's going to carry on for as long as you live. So authenticity, consistency, and differentiation.
I
Those
love
are the
that.
three
Good
hallmarks.
framework to sort of remember to own it.
Right.
Yeah.
Having said that, when you're talking about differentiation, right, this society actually encourages conformity, and anything that's different is not really accepted, or even like sometimes mocked at, made fun of, and sometimes you're at the receiving end. How do you really, own up to that difference, uniqueness?
That's a brilliant question, Deepa. And, I'll just say something out here. Both Gauri and I have worked with so many women. And, she's worked with women in India and I've worked with women in Canada. And the fact of the matter is, like it or not, differentiation in men is kind of idolized. If a man is different, he's considered to be a maverick, he's considered to be, a go-getter, all those things. But when a woman tries to differentiate herself, she literally comes up under a microscope. It's just one of those realities that we live in. And this is something that I've had lots of talks with other women also. But that's the society that we're living in. So your question is absolutely valid. But then again, the the effort to differentiate despite the current constraints, that also becomes then a part of your brand. If you can do that respectfully, artfully, and consistently. But yes, I mean, you either succumb when you give in, which again then becomes a part of your brand, or you fight against the system, which again then becomes a part of your brand. So both ways go. But yes,
I have
it is harder.
Yeah,
I have a
Gauri,
take
go
on
ahead.
this. Like if you're authentic to yourself, if you already see your confidence comes from knowledge about yourself. As long as you have the knowledge, you have the confidence, which is genuine. If you don't have the knowledge, the confidence is going to come across as fake. The society is going to affect you. But if you're true to yourself and you know who you are, and it's a process, right? But once
Right,
you get there, then I don't think anything around or surroundings or anything will affect you. You know your path.
right,
It's simple. I am going on this path. You know, people may pull you down, people may say that's a hindrance, but who cares? I know myself, I'm connected with myself. This is who I am, this is who I want to be. How I'm getting there is a process. But
right,
the core factor is what is missing, and that's what's the biggest thing that's missing.
right. So how do you sort of narrow that bridge of how people, look at you and how do you want to be seen? Gauri, you want to take that?
How do you narrow it down? I think, see, I mean, I think this goes to everyone, and I've even told my kids that, but I think especially for us women, I think it's about first identify what are your talents, what are your skills, how much knowledge do you have, and it's not only about career, Deepa. It's whether it's bringing up the kids, it's doing anything, you know. It's when you are strong within yourself and you know who you are, what you stand for, what your values are, what your principles are. Where do you want to be from here? Let's say I want to go from point Y to point Z. You know, how am I getting there? Of course, I need to have the knowledge. I need to have it. Only then do you get the confidence. Now, let's say I have been training women, I don't know from how many years, 15, 20 years, but it's taken me 25 years to be where I am. Right? Now, there are no shortcuts. It's the harder way. I have chosen the harder way. Now, when you're
Right.
going for shortcuts or you're taking the easy way out, you are going to mess up. You are going to mess up. So it's very important to go slow to understand everything. And once when you are confident, then put your fourth gear and go all the way. But you know, the problem is, and I've had so many women, I want to be a makeup artist. What do you want to do? I want these products, I want to buy these products. Products are not the only thing that's making you. What did I start off with? Maybelline, L'Oreal. We didn't even have Mac in India. I still made a name, Krylon.
Yeah.
Those names are not even weren't even heard of. You know, it was, I mean, Mac wasn't heard of. So these are the brands that I made and established myself with. So the products didn't make me. And I'm sure Rohit also started with some camera, which obviously, I mean, everyone was which camera to use. That doesn't mean anyone who picks up a camera can become a great photographer or anyone who buys
Bought my
makeup or
camera
body.
from
Sorry.
I bought my camera from Aurangzeb. It was that old.
So it's not like, okay, okay, Gauri has this kit, I'm gonna make the exact kit and I'll be as good as her. That's not gonna work. You know, you can be inspired by people, but you have to figure out your own individuality.
Rohit, so, as a follow-up to that, how do you really identify, the process I'm talking about as to what do you really want in life or, sort of get that clarity on what you are? How do you work towards that? Is there a process to it,
Yes.
journaling? I'm just,
Yes. No, I can actually give you the blueprint on that one.
yeah.
Uh, it starts off if you're trying to identify your brand from a scratch.
Mm,
The step one is take out any other preconceived notions that you have about yourself.
mm,
You know, take out everything that you might have done in the past. Now you're starting from scratch. When people tend to do that, the first, I would say, mistake that they make is the first thing they will do is start comparing themselves in terms of a brand to people around them who they want to emulate, who they want to say, I want to be like this person. Or how come I'm in the same position in the company as the other person, but the way she's looked at is different from the way I'm looked at. Now, if you're going to start creating a brand with that thought in mind, you're already putting yourself at a disadvantage. So that is the first step that you have to do. Like I said earlier, you can be the best at who you are. Now, given your skill set, maybe somebody isn't doesn't have all the social skills as the person next to them in office. Let's take the work environment for instance. They don't have the social skills that the other person does. They're not as glamorous as the other person, and that's where you accept your authenticity. And like Gauri said, you accept your talents, you recognize your talents, and then you go for the second step, which I said, differentiation. That's where your creativity comes in. How do you differentiate yourself from the person next to you? Like, not all the big Bollywood guys were glamorous looking. Nasruddin Shah made his own mark. Everybody made their own mark, not on the basis of their looks. They made it on the basis of their performance. That fine, I can't compete with them on this one. I'm going to improve them in performance. So they gave a completely different narrative of who they are. So that is the next step. But then don't start off with any kind of a peer pressure because you're already starting to lose the battle if you do.
Mm.
So if you can say, okay, fine, these are my talents. You're being authentic to yourself. You're going to come up with some differentiation ways or ways to differentiate yourself. Maybe research up more on your job. Come up with some better value to the company that other person has not been able to do. There is always room for improvement. And nowadays, we are literally diving towards mediocrity. There is so much room for us to improve. And then finally, once you get that thing of where you're different, then consistently push that narrative across.
Mm.
Does that answer your
So
question?
it does. It does. So
Yeah.
just a little more clarity on, how
Mhm.
do you identify the differentiation? Do you do that personally, or do you take a help of like people close to you? How do you go about, finding that what you
Okay.
bring
So,
uniquely to people?
right. So one of the exercises that you would need to do definitely is take a inventory of where you are versus
Mm-hmm.
where you want to be. Okay. I mean,
Mm.
how would you go somewhere if you don't know where you are? Right. So the ways you want to think about yourself being seen in that light, and then being honest as hell to yourself and saying, this is how I'm actually being looked at. And then having the sense to see the difference. Your first step is to bridge that gap. Now, when you're bridging
Mm.
that gap, so let's say you're looking at more creative ways to make an impact at work, right? The first thing I would say is, well, of course, use your own ideas. Number two, look at people who've actually done something different in your own line of work, in your own vertical. Read up more than anybody else knows about your work. That's the first thing that I would do. You should know more about the work than your boss does. You should know more about your industry than the boss does. And the moment you do that, in the moment in meetings and all, your knowledge comes across. You've instantly made that difference, and now you're on everyone's radar. If everyone is super scared of this one guy who's in the office, and you're the one who easily stands up with them with calm, collected information, you'll stand out. You don't need gimmicks. Gimmicks won't take you far at all.
Mm. Right.
Because you have all sorts of people in the office. So you don't want to
Right.
make enemies. You want to make an impact. You don't want to be better than the other person. You simply want to be a better version of yourself, which is now showing itself in the natural habitat.
Absolutely. I like that. And
Yeah.
actually, this whole exercise of personal branding, this whole thing requires time to sort of really reflect on yourself, to sort of do that inner work, to make you a stronger, also to get clarity on what you are, what you stand for, all of that requires time. So, like Gauri said, it really takes a lot of time to sort of build that narrative for your own self, right? So
Can I
this
say
is
something
what
out
you
here?
guys are doing in the workshop. You sort of bring that out and help that person nudge. Is that what you do in your workshops?
So, Gauri, one second. Deepa, I'll just say one more thing. Something that Gauri and I have spoken about, I think, over 100 times. That whenever you come at a crossroads like this, where you want to make a difference in your own brand, there are
Mm.
two questions that need to be answered. Okay. And we both believe in it inside out. And this is one of the biggest things and the first things we talk, whenever we are guiding people. First question you have to ask yourself is, how badly do you want it? And the next one is, what are you willing to give up for it? And half your answers come there. Right, Gauri?
Absolutely. And it's not only what you do, it's how you do it, right? That's what really differentiates you.
Yeah, that's that's interesting, right? Because I think I heard Rohit talk about, like you have to really dig deep into your why. Why do you want it? For you to be able to own it, whether you want, the presence or to be heard in, the boardroom that you're in, or in a meeting room that you're in, or what have you. But being able to be intentional, about it sounds like, what you guys are talking about. I actually have a few different things that I kind of made a note for myself. I think the one thing that came up with Rohit, what you talked about was sort of ruthless honesty, right? Like to be honest with yourself and be ruthless about it. I think that's one that I think really comes across as you're working through this. And the other one that you talked about was adding value. Like figure out how you can add value wherever you're going in, whether it's in terms of knowledge, whether it's in terms of presence. So I love that, and I think that's a good segue to other women who've trying to go through this journey, right? How do you sort of make that mindset shift with like when you're in that place about trying to figure out the why, or being honest with yourself, or how do you add value? Like how do you actually go about changing that mindset? What is that foundation that you would encourage people to look at, and what are those unique values that you would want women to actually own? Do you have any perspective on that, Rohit?
Uh, I would say, look, in terms of women's, uh, I would say the women's journey is quite different from a man's journey. I mean, they both follow more or less the same road, but the tracks might be slightly different. Because in our society, people look at men differently from the way they look at women. And when you're looking at a matter of branding, the way people look at you, they perceive you, it comes on the heels of centuries of that kind of a behavior. So one can't just ignore that fact. So if you have to operate in a certain landscape, first of all, you have to understand the landscape very well. So it's easy for you to say, screw the landscape, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. But then, you are in the jungle, so you got to kind of live with the lions. So that is one. So except acknowledging the landscape that you're working in is important. And number two, when you look at it, like I said, give more, right? Anybody can take care of their own. And this applies at the home front and the work front. When you say, I want to be slightly different from somebody else, you're looking at ways to create more value for other people. And the moment you start creating value for those people, especially the ones who have nothing to give back to you, which is a stark difference from what most people are doing in today's environment. Everyone is in the thing, what's in it for me? Right? And the moment you can make that one shift and do this, now you're automatically standing out. But then don't do it because of this. Do it because you feel it, not other way. Right? So that's the one thing. Secondly, under getting a better understanding of the roles that you're playing, where you need to establish your brand, where you need to when you need to have clarity about your brand. One, of course, could be the work environment. Other one could be social environments. I'm currently working with a woman. She's having confidence issues in social environments. And that's a whole different animal to take care of. But then a lot of women are very quiet in the social environments and they don't like it. They wish they won't. But again, what's your brand value that you want there to be? So your brand value in the social environment, in the family environment, your role as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, as a sister, as a friend, all those. If you're really serious about creating a long-term brand for yourself, you've got to put in the time out here. There's no magic bullet to this. There's no shortcut. And
Yeah.
another one thing is, men don't have this advantage. Women do. That I can't. Tomorrow, if I want to look better when I step out, I can't put any makeup on. But if someone talks to Gauri and learns that thing and learns styling and stuff like that, it makes a huge difference to a woman's confidence from the inside. I can comb my hair all I want. I won't be feeling good about myself. That's why women have the confidence, that advantage. So it's about
That's very
you having
interesting.
a Yeah, you have a very solid advantage. But then a lot of women don't take advantage of that.
Right.
You know, once you have the confidence in how you're looking and you walking into a room, look, there's a difference between walking into a room, Rashmi, and making an entrance.
Yeah.
And when you have that confidence, you make an entrance. If you don't have the confidence, you're simply walking into a room.
No, for sure. And that's why it's so important, about, in fact, I'd love to get Gauri, your perspective, especially because you dabble in this space, like, when it comes to, shaping that first impression. Um, how much can you actually, be deliberate about it to influence that?
A lot, actually, Rashmi. It's like
Yeah.
every detail counts. Every detail counts. And when everything is aligned is when you're confident. When you're confident and people will notice you. So it would be like let's look at the layers of, let's say, dressing up, your outfits, your hair, your makeup, right? Everything can be prim and proper. But if you're not confident from within, it's not going to show.
Mm.
Again, let's take an example. Skinny jeans were in fashion. Women would walk in holding their breaths, walking in, you know, and they were looking perfect. But eventually they were like, "Oh, it's gone. I can't walk. I can't sit. I can't do this. Why the fuck are you wearing the skinny jeans? It's why are you being so uncomfortable? That's not a part of you." So, I mean, I'm just giving an example, but that's
Yeah.
what we do. That's what we do. If you can walk in knowing that everything is aligned, you are set. And you know what, Rashmi? The other thing is that we can point out things. Everyone is already different. Rashmi is already different from Deepa. Deepa is already different from Gauri. Gauri is already different from XYZ. So we already are different. The only thing is when you identify what your difference is, what are your positives, what do you need to enhance, what do you need to really cut down, right? I mean, play low, right? Not cut down, but play low. So that's what we really need to do, work within, and it takes time. Trust me, even when I teach makeup, I tell my students, learn everything, learn all the rules to be able to break the rules. But you have to know all the rules to be able to break them. And it's going to be a trial and error. You're going to try something, it may work, it may not work, but by at some point you know what works for you. And I'm sure you guys can relate to me because I'm 50 now. I mean, we all are 50 now, but at some point you just know, yeah, this works for me, this doesn't work for me, but that doesn't stop me from experimenting with other things, right? But I already have my identity. I already know what works for me. But the rest is all okay, friend and fancy. I could try it. If it works, why not? But that doesn't change who I am. You know, even whether I'm walking for anything, I can walk for a red carpet event in my leggings and tie a sari. I've done this for 15 years. Now it's become passion. So you know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't that I was trying to be, it was just that you're creative. That's just me. So what is you? Who are you? I think that everything just boils down to that. Everything boils down to that. In terms
Rashmi,
of
So,
differentiation,
Gauri and I,
evaluation.
we work on a concept, and I have to put this out. This is the right time for me to say this. We work on this concept called the reveal, where we'll go into a woman's place in the morning, and she's looking normal, and during the day, we give her the experience of a lifetime. With all the styling and all the makeup and everything else, and like the works. And after that, in the evening, I do a photo shoot for them. I'm not kidding. Gauri knows that we've seen this happening dozens of times. By the end of the evening, that woman is a changed woman.
Mm.
If she had any confidence issues, they are gone. That's the impact of visuals on a woman. Massive, massive, massive. And this doesn't apply to young women necessarily. We've had women in their 70s and 80s. We've done the complete reveal for them. And you should just see the pictures and just see the difference in their eyes and the confidence and the glow in their eyes. They are the happiest.
I can
That
imagine.
makes a difference. That's the power of external branding.
See,
I have a
also,
question
Rashmi,
here.
I mean, here, I would say not only on the branding perspective, and I'm talking on, being a woman. Now you've got your own business, whatever that you're doing. You've got your family. You've got, your social circle. Now, the biggest problem that I see, and I know I'm going a little off here, but the mothers are having problem with the children. You may be a great a very successful businesswoman, but you're having a huge problem at home. Your marriage is crumbling down. So these are also things that are affecting you as an individual, right? I mean, yeah, I may be a brand, but if my personal life is messed up, it's going to show. So basically, the other thing that we also, I think, emphasize on is a balance of everything. How do you, I mean, when I'm being true, now, of course, we're playing different roles. Now I'm playing as a mom. Am I the same? Yes, my basics are the same. That's exactly why connection to myself is important. Right now, if I'm going to fake it, yeah, I am this la-di-la woman who is going out, teaching you all makeup and being extremely pretentious and stuff like that. That's not going to work at home. That's not going to work at home. That's not going to work that's not going to work with my husband or whoever, whatever relationship I'm having. So you know what I mean? You need to have some kind of a consistency of who you are on every front that you are playing a role at.
I have a question.
The analogy that the analogy that we use is that what Gauri is talking about is that that the essence of what you are needs to be. That's like the foundation of your house. Now, going out could be your living room. Being at home with your kids could be your bedroom, but they all don't have to look the same, but they all have to be beautiful. Think of it that way.
Right.
In their own way.
Yeah.
But underneath that house is the same foundation.
Yeah.
And it's still a home. So when you walk in, everything together becomes a home.
It's like they say, the home is in the heart, isn't it? It's,
Yeah.
so if your within doesn't, translate, then, I suppose it just doesn't come true. So fits really well with what you guys are talking about, to really be able to own that. I love it. Sorry, Deepa, were you saying you had a
I was
question?
asking Gauri a question. How important is it that you look the part of what you're playing? Meaning to say, like, say there's a certain very serious career role that you have, like you're a CEO of some company or whatever. But internally, I'm very punkish by nature, say. Can you be authentic self and still show up like that? Because there must be certain norms how you have to come across, right? Do you believe
Parts of
in
you will
that?
come out anyways. Parts of you will come out
So
anyways.
that, yes, that I agree.
Right.
But I'm
Yeah.
saying that do you have to also be aware of the role that you're going to play and like sort of adapt that as part of your personality?
Of course you do. Of course you do. I mean, I think that happens naturally. If I know I'm playing a certain role, which, my thing doesn't really fit in, let's say my funky nature or whatever it is, my, edginess. I mean, but a little bit will come out, but of course you're balancing it out. It's role playing. That doesn't mean I become that. Right.
Sometimes you have to adapt and change and embrace what you're going to do, right? Along the way.
Yeah, but that also you make it your way, na, Deepa. Was there any bracket a makeup artist has to be like this? I didn't know anything. I had no clue. I did whatever I felt was right. Right. So I mean, same way. I can only talk on my thing. I mean, Rohit would be able to answer this better because he's been more with, but I can only talk from my end that I can only be myself. And yeah, I have played roles. Like now, let's say I'm in the hospital. I obviously will not, bring in the other thing. I'll have to play a role of what I'm playing at the hospital or whatever purpose I've gone there for. So it's simple. I mean, that's just, a visit and back. But eventually who you are is what is important, and what you portray to the world about yourself is important. How you carry yourself is important. Who you are is important. What you make of yourself is important. How you evolve, how you work on yourself, and how, as Rohit said, you become better each day. Because who are you trying to prove anything to, Deepa?
Yeah.
Who are you trying to prove anything to? Yourself. If today I'm capable, it's for me. I never got into this to prove anything to the world. I wanted to prove it to myself. Until date. I mean, it's been 25 years. Show me one more makeup artist in Bangalore. Bombay, yes, because the film industry is there. But show me a makeup artist in Bangalore who survived that long. Why? So, these are the questions, because when you've been true to yourself and you've stuck to the path that you've chosen, And you've just played your role. Why is it difficult? Because other people say, oh my God, it's been so long. And I love it, and I still love it. And I've reinvented myself. And yes, I've dabbled with hazar other things, but that doesn't change who I am.
Right.
Right? Now, nobody knows I'm an astrologer. Nobody knows I'm a DJ. Nobody knows all that. Everyone knows me as a makeup artist. Right? But that's the identity I've shown the world.
Been
But
hiding
that
from
doesn't,
us.
Even I
but
didn't
that
know that.
doesn't stop me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that doesn't stop me from doing other things.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I love that. Actually going back to that, obviously I didn't know that. So uh, I want to, just understand that a little bit, right? Because obviously, people know you for makeup, and, they come to you probably, for that. It's some of these other things that you talked about, Gauri, whether it's, DJ or, I'm sure
Astrology.
there's other
Astrology.
stuff that you've dabbled in,
Loads.
outside of
Loads.
just.
Loads. I started a brand. Oh, the things that I've done, Rashmi. I sometimes amuse myself. I'm like, oh, I have to do that, but I just want to. Because,
Yeah,
there is no answer. You just want to do it. You want to do it. And who's stopping me? Who is anyone to judge me?
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's because I'm doing it. I'm still being true to what I'm doing.
right.
Makeup artistry is a faith. But hell, I make a great astrologer. I've done numerology. I've got time. Now that's a choice that I'm making what I want to do with the other part of my time. And when I got married, people say, oh my God, you cook. Oh my God, you're married. I mean, does it show on my face that I'm cooking? I can't cook. Like, what the hell? How are you even judging me?
Yeah. No,
So
we are.
people are all the time. And did I let that affect me? No. We are living our life for ourselves.
So true. And I think, what you guys talked about earlier is, it sort of all comes together, right? You just have to be able to be a better version of yourself and do it for yourself and own your why in doing that. So, I love what you talked about in terms of just embracing, your whatever it is that you're going through at the present moment, and, doing that. And, maybe it works out great and maybe it doesn't, but just owning that piece of it. That's awesome. I do want to, just, talk about or uncover for myself as well a little bit more, and, for the audience. I know your workshop that you guys, have, you kind of go through a framework for, uncovering this process, correct? Can you maybe just give us a sneak peek of, what that might look like? So if I'm coming to you as a person who's identified that I do need to maybe own my brand, or I have trouble in an aspect of what I'm doing, whether professionally, socially, and I know, Rohit, you talked about someone that you're helping with right now. At what point do you actually identify that, oh, I need to do this, or I need to do some work on, on myself or where I am?
So the process I would say is that, once you start working with a person and you start delving more and more into what the problem seems to be, because in a lot of cases, people tend to read themselves wrong. What they think they're dealing with is not really what they're dealing with. So that's one of the biggest challenges that comes up first. And that's something that you'll never completely uncover. That's a fact. But you can just do the best that you can for them. So again, if they're dealing with a personal branding issue as to what I think about myself in my environment, first of all, which is the most key environment to you? Is it work? Is it family? Is it social life? Is it community? What is it that you're trying to address? It could be all of them, but then one has to be more important than the other. So in that context, what is important to you? And how do you, as who you are, fit into that? So again, like I said earlier, you come to know the difference between what you would like to be seen as and where you are currently being seen as. And that gap needs to be bridged out. Number two, and the more important part is, and you'd be surprised at how often, we hit these roadblocks. A lot of people are not coachable. They don't want to hear anything negative about themselves. I'm not kidding. This is more real than it seems like. And then they have these barriers that, no, I just know it. I don't want to go there. Right? So if you are going to be your biggest stumbling block, then you've got a bigger problem on your hands than your branding. Then you've got far greater problems then. So you have to be coachable. You have to be open to ideas, not saying do it. A lot of what we do is we'll tell them, okay, look, here are the options that you can pick depending on your personality, depending on what you want. Try it on, see if it fits. If it doesn't, drop it. But in a lot of cases, people don't even know that all these options exist. Different ways to think about a certain problem. Look, we are all human. Tomorrow, if I'm talking to you about something and I say, give me all the ways one can think about this, there's no way you can do it. And the only difference is that I have certain experience, Gauri has certain experience. We'll just share our experiences and enlarge that pool of thoughts and then delve with that. So now we have much more work, much more, what do you call, inventory to work with, right? We have a much bigger arsenal to go and attack your problems. So then the person chooses as to what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. It's a slow process, definitely. But then as long as the process is deliberate and you are making progress, again, the key word is progress, not perfection. So as long as you're covering up one thing after the other, steadily making progress, eliminating all the problems that you had earlier, one by one, two things are happening. One, you're learning more about yourself. And number two, your own personal brand in your own eyes is going up, which is the most important one.
Mm.
As you can see yourself making progress, 2 months down the line, you look back and say, you know what, that one thing doesn't bother me anymore. I'm over that one. This person has no power over me anymore. I'm very confident. Earlier, I used to be intimidated by that person. Today, nothing. I'm okay. So everyone takes a different route. But more or less, the guidelines are these. And as you go along, we'll give you more challenging concepts, more different ways of looking at things that totally change the way you look at your own life. You look at your own different roles in all different ways. So again, back to the analogy that we used earlier, we'll basically give you a crash course on interior decoration of your house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
look at it that way. Same analogy, right?
No, I think that's great. What I mean, going back on that, what's the, I feel like one, belief you wish that maybe women held, for themselves or about themselves in all the people that you've helped, Rohit. Any, thoughts
Uh,
on that?
I do have one. I do have one. Consistently, I've seen it. And I would say it's confidence. And I'm gonna compare that with, let's say, men, just to make the point. All right. Uh, by default, and this is true. I'm a man, so I know. Men think more of themselves than they deserve to. We place a higher value on ourselves. कि हम महान हैं. All right. So we always give ourselves more credit than we deserve. Women, by default, give themselves less credit than they deserve.
Mm.
I know partially why, but for the large part, it is. I mean, in today's society, where there are ample opportunities for everybody, I mean, there is no reason for a woman to feel any less confident because, she thinks that she knows she can do this much, but she'll feel like she's capable of doing only this much. Whereas a man can do this much and he'll think he can do this much. Right? So that's the one thing where women just naturally take a back seat and they shouldn't have to. They really shouldn't have to. There's no reason for it. I mean, if someone could give me a concrete reason as to why they should do it and why there's any sense behind it, I would have
I
learned
think,
something.
Rohit, I think the reason also, I mean, I'm just putting in my thing, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but from the beginning, men have been running everything, right? Now, women are
It's a
still
patriarchal
figuring
society.
out. Women are still figuring out what our roles are. What are we really doing? And I think that's exactly why. And I think it all starts. This entire thing that we're talking about starts when you need to change something about you. It could be a brand about yourself. It could be anything. The moment you decide, because change is the most difficult thing, but the moment you decide, yes, this is something where I need to work on and I need help, it could be your brand, it could be anything. And
Yeah.
that's when the entire thing, your journey begins from there. Because I feel women are so emotionally caught up with so many things. It's like, and then finally they're like, nahi yaar, main aisi hi hu, but this is how it's going to be. But the women who've come to us are the ones who say, no, I do not want to be like this. I need someone to tell me, and that's where
And they
it
recognize
begins.
that this situation is more of an opportunity for them because now there are more opportunities for them to get into. There are more avenues for them to get into, which other women, by the way, are not getting into. So yes, I know that the underlining thing is the whole thing is that we come from a heavily patriarchal society, male-dominated society. I mean, nobody's getting away from that. But then the women who want to make a change, who want to rise up, they have a, I wouldn't call it unfair, but it is an unfair advantage that you have over other women who will not make that effort. Whereas relative to men, that's a beautiful advantage that women have. And that is good enough, that is strong enough for them to get the balls and, make a difference. Get your own brand cleared out.
And
Because
we are
all of
not
a
in
sudden, if you know
competition.
yourself better, you're much better than the rest. Instantly.
Absolutely. And we are not in competition. We need to identify who we are, what our strengths are, and
Yeah.
make the most of it. As simple as that. And balance our life out. Come on, every woman has different roles to play. A man, it's much easier for a man. That's why
It
they're
is.
so super confident.
They're
Yeah, no,
overconfident, not super confident.
but I think, you're right. I think it's partly societal sort of, conditioning, isn't it? We're all raised with that sort of conditioning that, the boys are stronger, or don't like cry like a girl, or, I mean, we do that to the boys as well as we do that to the girls. We're saying, oh, you're not as strong as a guy, so that's a
And
conditioning
we
that
don't
I
have
feel
to
like
be,
we're all grown.
Rashmi. We don't have to be as strong as men. We don't have to be. We
Correct.
are way stronger if we just identify our strengths. That's what
Friends.
I say. Don't work on anything. Work on yourselves. That's the
Correct.
biggest
Or you want to
gift
tell
you
them
can
about the
give.
Rum and Relationship podcast?
Yeah, we started a podcast only for that. Because, we've
Oh,
had so many people. It's just that everyone's so confused. And when we actually talk about certain things, they're like, how we never thought of this? So, we are trying, what we're trying through this as well is you just need to figure it out. We're not in competition. We're not saying anything. Anybody can tell me anything that doesn't change who I am. Somebody can come and say, Gauri, your work is shit. Okay, you felt so. I mean, that's how it is. Somebody comes and says, your work is fabulous. Amazing. Thank you. But I am not changing what it is. It's like, okay, you liked it, great. But the point is, what am I working on? I'm working on me being confident that I need to look at that face or the makeup that I've done and say, fuck, it is amazing. I mean, I was happy with it. Not amazing. I've never appreciated my work, but I know I've done a good job. And I know when I've done a fabulous job, and I know when I've done a shitty job. That's being truthful to yourself.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's, a lot of us, and this is not about, and I don't want this conversation to become like, oh, women versus men so much as, because I think this is a society where we coexist like the yin and yang, and I think there's harmony in both. So I do agree, Gauri, that it's not like, we're stronger or whatever. We just need to own what we are good at and live and sort of let live, right? Because the other will complement the other portion that you're not so good at or you don't want to deal with. Anyways,
Rashmi.
So
And
Rashmi,
that's
by the way,
fine.
on the podcast, we do have an episode. The podcast is called Rum and Relationships. It's on YouTube.
I love it.
And we do have an episode which we published a couple of weeks back. And the title of the episode is Are Men and Women Equal? Give it a listen.
I will.
And
I'm
the
gonna.
whole thing is all about relationships. It's beautiful. I mean, all different types. Your relationship with your family, your of course, your partner, and going
Yeah,
through all the different problems. So it's a really good riff on relationships.
awesome.
So
No,
that episode was pretty well received.
I'm
It's
sure.
an
I can't
age-old
wait.
problem.
Yeah, yeah.
I see this whole, if I were to take our entire webinar and put it in a nutshell, it's actually a journey within yourself and a long one, correct? Yeah.
Thank you. Very well summarized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very
So,
well summarized.
on that note, Rohit, if we were to sign off now with given like maybe 4 questions for the audience to sort of introspect, what would those 4 questions be where they sort of go home, like sit with those 4 questions to identify either their journey, what they want, where they are, all of those things.
Okay. First one I would say is go home quietly and identify all the areas, all the roles that you're playing where you would need your own brand identity. So again, just list them all down, whether it's work, community, whatever it is, list those areas down. Number two, honestly, say, like we discussed earlier, examine where you want to be, how you want to be seen in all those 4 areas, and brutally honestly tell yourself, this is where I stand. Thirdly, ask yourself, how important is this for me to close that gap? Maybe your gap between the community is not really important to close because not everything has to be as important. But maybe your gap between your relationship with your kids needs to be closed. Like, the gap between what you want and what you are. So that this needs to be addressed far more. So prioritize those 2 things. And number 4, how much time and what are you willing to give to close the gap? You get these 4 done, you're already 80% of the way. And then comes strategy on how you do it. But that's a different ball game by itself. And this
Yes.
podcast isn't long enough for us to address that.
Correct. Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
a good place that you've left us in to even
Yeah.
sort of dwell and think about it, because I don't know how many of us are living so intentionally, or even
Yeah.
taking that pause and like reevaluating our lives, or where we stand, where you're headed. I mean, it's an important task to do, I think, if you're mindful about it, and to see or to place your trajectory, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can call it the internal side of branding, you can call it the external side of branding. I would just say this is the mental side of branding. This exercise that you're doing, that's the mental side of branding. And you
Right,
start with there, and then you go towards the internal and external parts, and then
right.
link them up together.
Yeah. Gauri,
We're
you
here
want to
to
say
help
anything?
you. Sorry. Hmm?
No, I wanted to ask you if you wanted to leave behind something for the audience.
I think we are all blessed with instinct, intuition, a gut feeling. And as long as you start learning to start listening to that, and if you're having a problem with that, you need to declutter. You need to declutter what's really hampering it. And that's where I would say, as a woman, as someone who has really lived and been who I am today, is as Rohit said, you need to be brutally honest with yourself as to what really is stopping you from achieving what you need to achieve. And once you kind of figure that out, and of course, we're here to help you. That's because, see, you already know where you want to be, but sometimes people get lost with what is the path I need to take? What do I need to do? Where am I going wrong? So, that's where we come in, where we're just showing you that this is what you really need to do. And it's that simple. And sometimes the simplest of things that you don't really realize that it's that simple. It's just about working on yourself, right? And I would say if you can declutter everything and just focus on where your gut, your instinct, and your intuition takes you, I think that's when you hit, where you're on the right path. And whatever it takes for you to get there.
Well said.
Thank
Well
you
said.
so much. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know we're almost, coming up on the hour now. So this has been such a fun conversation, having with the both of you. It's been great. I mean, we've
Great.
explored so much from like just shifting, from sort of almost, invisible to, being intentional about your brand, understanding the inner brand more so than sort of the outer, because that is more telling. And also, I love this, what you talked about, Rohit, on the ADC strategy, something that I suppose is a good takeaway. And again, I think for the audience, what I want to also highlight is, remember that your personal brand isn't something that you sort of manufacture, right? Yes, you want to strategize, but it's a process that you uncover, you claim and own it. And I think we've seen that come through from both Rohit and Gauri today. Obviously, this is a journey, and if you're in a place where you feel like you want to take this to the next step and identify what this framework can do for you, we are going to be hosting a workshop in partnership with Gauri and Rohit. We're going to announce the dates soon, but stay tuned for that. It's obviously going to be a full day experience, just designed to kind of help you build on your brand, sort of inside out. And of course, if you haven't, followed Sira Inner Circle on Facebook, come join us for more such conversations where we go deeper into uncovering who we are and owning, who we are. Obviously you matter, your voice matters, your presence matters. So we want to help you claim that. Thank you again. Until next time, take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.